you can see better than I can if I actually hit the damn thing or not. 30 feet, not bad for a short range, what's essentially a pistol crossbow. Let's have a look at the EK Archery Cobra RX 130 pound pull. I think it's the best all-round versatile crossbow for a home garden shooter. Not too powerful, powerful enough, and let's get into it. Let's start with the basics, the specification. This is from the website. I actually remembered thinking it had slightly higher FPS, and that's because when I used it when I was doing a test between two 80-pound pistol crossbows, and I did get a different spec from somewhere else, as we see here, and it turns out it depends on the arrow that you use, as you would expect, the weight of the arrow. I think I spent about 260, 270 on this, but it was a few years ago now, so I can't remember for sure. You can get it now for 208 from merlin.co.uk, and I'll put the address up. I think it's springfield.co.uk. Have it for 203. Buy it from Springfield. Don't particularly like Merlin. I brought a crossbow. It was either this one or a slightly larger version, the Siege 300. And it came with some minor damage to it, and the packaging was damaged, and they didn't give a damn. When I contacted them about it, they said essentially good luck getting another one because they're being imported slowly. So I didn't return it. I kept it, and I don't like them very much, put it that way. Not great service. That's pretty cheap. I would say that if you're buying your first crossbow, then you might want to spend £50 on a pistol crossbow. You might want to spend under £200 on a pretty basic recurve crossbow like this. This is the Anglo Arms Panther, which will be more powerful. Thing is, this is overkill for your garden. If you miss the target, it's definitely going to go somewhere it shouldn't be. Whereas with this, if I stood at the very top of this, about 100 foot garden, 120 foot perhaps, and fired, if I fired up, it would go over. But if I fired, miss the target and hits a fence, it's probably not going to go through it. It will go through a fence at close range. I know that because it went through the about 12mm wood door of this fence, and I was testing it. I fired really badly when I'd first got it, and I thought the arrow had bounced somewhere, and I was worried about that for a while until I found it had gone straight through and hit a squat stand in the shed, so there was no problem there. But that's going to be overkill. This is about right. You have something small like this 80-pound pistol crossbow, and when you fire it, if you've got a quick eye, you can see the bolt dropping in the air. That's even at about 30 foot. It's just not powerful enough to be very accurate. That's why I talk about those. You're essentially playing a game of darts, but you're not throwing it with your wrist, because it's about how powerful they are. I did at one point suggest that from about 15 foot away you could probably fire it at somebody wearing the clothing I was wearing at the time, t-shirt, jumper and a jacket. I still think that's likely, and it wouldn't penetrate. I'll do a test later on. Somebody, when I mentioned that, said please don't do it. I'll be wearing a gambeson at least. I might even be wearing a breastplate, so there's no danger involved. I'll always do these things very carefully. I say it's best all round because it's powerful enough. It's nice and quick to cock. You do have to be careful of one thing when you cock it. Here is part of the mechanism that will work for the safety, and if you catch it behind that when you feel a click and don't go far enough, then it won't fire. You won't be able to put the safety forward, and it doesn't cause a major problem, but when that happens you have to gently let it down and release the string. And it's that easy to cock it, as you saw in the introduction video. And you haven't got to mess around when you want to fire it. And in case somebody's watching this who doesn't know much about crossbows, doesn't use them, it could certainly be argued that I don't know much about crossbows, then I'll explain why that matters. And let's have a look at the Anglo Arms Panther. So we have £130 on the RX, and this is £175. £175, that's when you get into the point, if you look at websites to do with hunting, that you could hunt a deer. You probably won't want to shoot a bear with 175, but some people say it is possible. You better be up a tree somewhere if you do that. But in the country I live in, you can't hunt anything under any circumstances. Even if you happen to be a landowner with permission to hunt some kind of vermin, you can't use a crossbow for it. So there's no point in having one powerful enough to hunt anyone with. Apart from that, it's just so bad to cock. Let's just angle this down a little bit. And I'm not of any supreme strength, but I've done a straight leg deadlift of 170 kilos. That's enough to say that I'm not weak. Yet this is not easy for me to cock, and even worse, I have to wear gloves to do it. I've got fairly thick calloused hands, but not where the string goes. And let's see, you have to wait for the right click, because again the safety mechanism triggers first. And I got it, that's good. It's not that hard to do. It seemed a bit easier than last time I did it, so maybe I'm slowly getting stronger. It's about time. But that's a lot of messing around when you want to take shots at a target and it's enough to put you off and say, I don't want to have to do that every time. I'd rather just have the lighter levered cock and not have to mess around so much. I'll just fire this to get it off. Now it's far more powerful, although it's only 45 pounds in numbers. It's a lot more powerful, but I'll not spend much time on this today. Ooh, poor monkey. You of course get lever cocking on something small like this as well, and it's pretty easy to do this. I love the mechanism. This one has bars that pull the string back, and the Cobra RX is a little bit different. Something I'm going to do just right now, I marked off earlier 30 foot and 50 foot in this garden. Let me just clear the target a bit first. I'll leave the 175 pound pull arrow in there because that will take a bit of pulling to get out. I just want to show you exactly why it matters, and it matters for target shooting. And it's not just a matter of people thinking, oh well, I want to shoot somebody and do a lot of damage, which is completely impossible to do legally, certainly in this country. But it's because it doesn't fire well. It's not going to hit what you shoot at. And I've measured out the distance. I'm 30 feet away. Don't think I'll bother with 50 because this is going to be bad enough. And this is a pretty good iron sight. I'm aiming right for the monkey's nose, and I expect we'll see that the bolt load lands way beneath it. If that turns out not to be true, right, well, let's just get that focus back. It's important to admit when you're wrong, and I thought that was I was aiming right for the middle, and it landed at its eye level, and I expected it to land below the face. So with that in mind, I'm going to go and do another one at 50 feet. And I normally shoot with this 80 pound pull pistol crossbow just about 15-20 foot away, because I do it in the shed between sets when I'm exercising. Maybe I've got the wrong idea and it doesn't drop as much as I thought. Let's come back here. I'm going to be at 50 foot now, and I'm going to try the same shot. And if this hits right in the middle, then I better shut up about bolts dropping in flight, because the problem's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. Let's see, right, that's more like it. It's landed right down here, right here. Now you can see it. It's not about this crossbow, so I'm not going to look into that further now. I'm really surprised the 30 foot one didn't drop a great deal more. Pleasantly surprised, you could say. But it could have just been caught by the wind, and it could have kept it up. What I would say about this, often when people are talking about weapons like this, they talk in terms of fighting in a zombie apocalypse, and that's obviously because you can't talk about shooting people unless you want undue attention. I would say not ideal for the zombie apocalypse unless you're ready to get a headshot every time, because this wouldn't be powerful enough to hit one in the chest and completely disable it. Wouldn't be very reliable. I'd say this is better defense in case of an alien invasion, assuming the aliens aren't expecting to be hit with projectiles because of their advanced technology, so they're not wearing any very thick armour, and you could cock shoot pretty quickly and get some little blighters before they complete their invasion. You get accessories, and we have a four handle, don't know what you really call it, goes onto the rail here. It's actually a bit stiff. I'm not going to go to the bother of fitting it, because I find that shooting like this isn't as comfortable as shooting like that, and apparently so did rifle manufacturers for decades, if not centuries. You also get a stock, and I don't like this. I'm not going to secure it with a pin. I still have to pull the pin out to get the thing in, and as always is always the case, I don't have the Allen key here. Problem with this is position it on your shoulder, and I can't get behind the iron sights. I need to point down to line them up. In fact, even then it's very difficult. I need to be there to look at the iron sights properly. I think that makes this useless. Now, if you have a scope, yeah, you'd probably be okay with a scope on there. I think a scope's overkill for garden shooting. And if you're shooting at a distance that really requires it, then by the time you're at 100 feet, you're taking risks that are a little bit dodgy, maybe going a little bit far for the garden. The wind might catch something. If you're very careful and you're firing from 100 feet away and you're using the scope and you're in the centre of the target, you should be okay. But perhaps it's just because I'm not that competitive enough. 50 foot will do me, really. I have shot a little bit further against this, and I put some other things behind it. That's the point. Something I want to mention is target. In my previous video about crossbows, one person, I can't remember the exact question, but he talked about target and backstops and things like that. And I think he was asking me for any suggestions. Here's an old air conditioner box, and it's not just got a couple of bits of card in, it's absolutely full with as much card as it could have in, folded tightly and shoved in so there's no gaps, and you also overlap it so you don't just have 40 sheets all in a row. You have 10 sheets one side, 10 sheets the other side, not with a gap, but I mean lined against the side, so there's overlap. You even fold the corners so there's overlap at the edges. And there's no way that a bolt's going through. Even the 175 won't go all the way into it. I actually have this is about 18 inches square. I've got some with smaller boxes for chairs, things like that I've filled with other kind of cardboard, and they're okay unless you're using the heaviest thing. So in the shed I've just got one of those. It's about 6 inches wide behind the target. It's brilliant thing to use for it. Card, just cover something in card, and if you wanted, you could, in theory, you have to have some friends who have also bought air conditioners or something of similar size, perhaps a washing machine box. That would take a lot of filling. You could even stack them staggered behind each other, and before you know it, you've got a really good backstop that's pretty safe. And somebody's only really going to just check in volume and power. Somebody's only really going to have an arrow leave the bounds of their property if they're doing silly things. So before I distracted myself, the stock I think isn't of any use at all, and it makes it almost impossible to fire, and you have to position it like that, and of course there's no recoil as such, but you still get a little bit of bump to your cheek. I also tend to think that these are, you can extend it a little bit, doesn't help. It's still not lined up well at all. I tend to think things like this are for people who want to I don't know, maybe I'm leaving myself open to criticism here, because what's this if it's not essentially playing a soldier? But you can do it. You can do it so you're target shooting, trying to get better at it, you're trying to understand the mechanism and how to be precise, and strapping something like this on is getting a bit silly. I feel a bit different about the strap itself. Such a good strap, I'm tempted to use it for other things. It's good just so you can drop it down there while you're using your hands, pulling out difficult arrows. That wasn't as bad as I thought. And it's very useful for that, but any idea that you're going to carry it around on the ready, it's all a bit unrealistic, of course. You also get the adder system, and I'll pull up a quick picture of that. And it looks like great engineering. Something that will go on top of it, and when you cock it, it will automatically drop in another arrow. And it's good, it's nice, but it's too much for me. You just don't need it. You'd have to have a good reason to want to shoot that quickly, and it is, I think, it's just a toy. It's not that big a deal. By the time you've done this, to also do that. Of course, if you were in some fictional situation trying to defend yourself with this, everything would change, but that's very unlikely. And I will remind at this point, and I forgot to put up the video I made about the law on crossbows in Britain. Let me do that now. It means I don't have to talk about it every time. You can't do anything with a crossbow in Britain. Sure, if you had video cameras and you saw somebody with a rifle enter your property and then you were moved to use it, you're probably best barricading yourself behind doors. Then you might get away with it legally. Not much short of that. Not much, unless you just happen to have it in your hands, you happen to cock it, you're standing pointing at a target, and maniac bursts through the door and runs at you with a weapon. Then you could get away with it if you've got proof that happened. Of course, it's not going to happen. I said it before, and I still say crossbows aren't something to take into consideration for self-defense. Too unlikely to get away with it. One thing I noted, it says in the instructions to apply wax after every 5 shots, and I'll sometimes do that because I want it to last a long time. But when I was preparing the video, I took those 3 shots on video, and I took a couple beforehand, and that's 5, and it was still covered in wax. Put a bit more on, but you don't really need to. I wouldn't be surprised if you get away with 10 shots. I think it's the wear on the string you're worrying about more than anything. Here's something of interest, and possibly somebody who's watching this could clear this up for me. Some sources indicate that you use separate stuff for the rail. Shouldn't really be pointing that way while I'm talking, while it's cocked. I happen to know there's nobody out there at all, but it's still a stupid thing to do. Some people maintain that you have different wax or oil for the rail and for the strings, and I keep on finding stuff that says string wax on it, and then other stuff that says string wax and here's the other one. Let's see, is that the one? Rail lube. And when you buy them, you just tend to get one. And I found some sources saying they're exactly the same. Well, maybe some people will tell me I'm really being foolish here, but I just treat them the same. And I apply a little bit on the rail, rub it in with the fingers a bit, and rub some around the string. Let's just fire this. Let's get out of and done with, so I'm not walking around with something loaded and dangerous. I think the adder's overkill, the magazine fed bolts. If you want to enjoy using it because it's a well engineered piece of equipment, then go ahead and get one, but I don't really think you need to otherwise. With that in mind, something I should have mentioned is a difference between something like this and this. I think this is called the Tomcat. I never remember these things. Crossbows aren't my primary hobby, so I spend less time with them than I would like to. They're pieces of steel pull the string back. Here the firing mechanism is moved forward and then it grabs the string, and here that's where you'd have a problem and you have to go one further, and now it's cocked again, isn't it? It will be in a minute. Apart from the adder, I don't think there's any other accessories that really matter for this. You could make it more powerful. There's I think his name's Jörg, not sure if he's German or else from elsewhere in Europe. He modifies crossbows heavily, and he made one with 2 prods on it. He had to reinforce this, the cocking lever, reinforce this as well, and it was a lot of messing around. It's worth it if you've got the skill as a hobby, but you're getting too powerful again, and the person in question, actually, he seems to live on over the farmland or something like that. When you've got an ordinary garden, then there's only so far you're going to be able to shoot sensibly and fairly safely. I only use the iron sights. This comes with what they call a red dot sight. I suppose it's a review, I should show it. I've not used it, but I can say that people mention it's not that good, and if they're very serious about it, I'd have to take the pin out to put that on, but you'd obviously mount it here. If you're that serious about sights, you probably want something a little better than this, although it could be said, if you're that serious about sights, you probably want to spend a few £100 on a crossbow. £203 at the moment for this. That's hobby level. That's okay for just something that you're going to shoot every now and then. I have spent a little bit more on crossbows that I'll have a look at another time. I don't need more than a few though, I really don't. And I don't think there's much else to say. There's really not. It's so easy to handle and to cock. They call it, these things, auto-cocking levers, and it's obviously not auto-cocking, or they call it self-cocking, and it's not self-cocking either. You have to do it. It just gives you a lot more leverage to do it. I really would recommend getting this if you want a crossbow. If you've thought about crossbows and you've got a bit of money to spare, get one of these. You can enjoy shooting with it. You can do it quite easily. You can enjoy just the fact that it's a good bit of engineering. This all looks a bit what they call tactical, supposed to look somewhat military-like. But that said, I don't think it matters to have the moulded plastic. It's all very comfortable to hold, and I can't imagine it being made much better without that look. You could change, I don't know, you could take some of the bulk away here, but that's about it. The sights can't be adjusted, and I don't have a problem with it. I certainly did okay on the monkey here. The original 3 shots, as you saw at the start of the video, wasn't right in the centre, but 50 foot, sorry, that was 30 foot. 30 foot, that's pretty good, I think. And maybe to close this section, let's just have one shot at 50 foot. And that will clear the cocked bow while we're at it. And now maybe I'll do really badly and make my ability to accurately appraise it called into question. I've measured this out, now I'm at 30 and now I'm at 50 again. And at this distance, the problem is, and this is basic information, but if you don't know much about crossbows and you're thinking about them, then it's worth knowing. Now I'm at the point where the red dots, the 3 red dots that line up at the front of the iron sight, are about half the size of the monkey's head. So moving just a fraction of a millimetre can really throw you off. Let's see. Oh, that's not so bad. Oh, no. I was looking at the wrong one, wasn't I? Too high, okay. Then my recommendation ought to be get the crossbow if you want one, but you probably want to get somebody else to shoot it. And that's it. I was going to try the pull, but I don't think it really matters. I did that in another video. Might see if I can call it up here, and that will show the measured actual pull. Okay, that's all right, halfway, and it's hard now. Okay. Alright, it's still not, it's about 3/4, but it isn't really precise because I couldn't pull to engagement. And that's really it for this one. Hopefully, if you're thinking about getting this, it will cover everything you wanted to know. If there's anything else, you could ask a question and I'll certainly investigate and try to find out. And that's it then. Hopefully this one hasn't been too long. It's nice to be shooting again. It's something I do sometimes, no more than perhaps 4 times a year. The Panther 175 pound pull crossbow, I've probably fired it 10 times, but probably not 20. This one, not 50 times, definitely not that much. But it's good fun. It's a good secondary hobby, and sometimes I find it useful when I'm taking a day from more physical pursuits. It gives me something else to do outdoors. That's it then. Hope the video I hope it didn't drag on too much and that everything was pertinent. Thanks for watching. My name's Mark, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.